We called the stars our diary. Every ship we launched was a pen stroke. Every colony we founded was a new entry. The galaxy was a vast, empty page. It was a story waiting for us to write it. We filled the void with our songs and our science. We carried our hopes to 100 new worlds. We believed the universe was ours to chart, that this great, silent dark was welcoming us. We were young. We were loud. We were so very wrong. They arrived without a sound. Their ships were perfect geometric shapes. They slipped into orbit around our world silently. There was no warning, no grand declaration. One day the sky was empty. The next day it was not. We watched them from our cities and our colonies. We held our breath across a dozen systems. Our fleets stood ready, but remained still. These were not conquerors. They looked more like architects of silence. Their ships did not have weapons. They had no visible engines or viewports. They were seamless constructs of black material. It was a substance that drank the light. We sent hails on every known frequency. We broadcast greetings of peace and mathematics. We sent our music and our art. There was no reply, only perfect, patient waiting. They observed us for a standard year. They watched us live and die and build. Then, one day, they finally spoke. The message entered every mind at once. It was not a voice, more a feeling of knowing. It was calm, ancient, and absolute. It spoke of an end to struggle. It spoke of preservation. They called themselves the curators. They had watched countless species rise and fall. They saw civilizations burn like fleeting sparks. They believed this was a tragic waste. They saw beauty in permanence. They had chosen us for a great honor. We were to be their finest acquisition. They saw our art, our chaotic creativity. They saw our fire and our ambition. They considered us a masterwork of evolution, a piece too precious to be lost to time. They offered us a gift, or so they called it. They would grant us a perfect, unchanging eternity. We would be sheltered from the horrors of the void. We would be protected from our own worst impulses. We would be safe. Forever. The offer was simple. We would cease our expansion. We would halt our messy, unpredictable growth. In return, they would grant us immortality. Not for us as individuals, but for our species. Our culture would be enshrined. Our worlds would become a living museum. A perfect snapshot of humanity, frozen at its peak. Our story would be complete, its final page written by them. We would be art. Perfect and finished. We debated for less than a day. The answer was swift and unanimous. It was carried by our leaders on every world. We broadcast it into the silent space between us. We told them we were grateful for the offer. We told them their concern was noted. But we had to politely refuse. We explained that our journey was the destination. Our flaws were what made us whole. Our struggles gave our triumphs meaning. We tried to tell them that a finished story is a dead one. They heard our words. We know they did. But they could not comprehend the meaning. To them, refusing perfection was a symptom of madness, a flaw in our design that needed correcting, a final, frantic spasm before the inevitable end. They did not argue. They did not threaten. They simply acted. Their silent understanding was more terrifying than any threat. They saw us as children refusing our medicine, and they had the cure. A wall of light bloomed around our sun. It was a beautiful, shimmering cage. It was a perfect sphere of golden energy. It enclosed our entire home system, Earth, Mars, our orbital habitats. Everything we were, everything we had been, all of it was now inside a bottle. They sent one final thought to us, a message of calm, dispassionate logic. The expansion of humanity is a contagion. The quarantine is now in effect. Your preservation is assured. The great stagnation began. For a century we threw ourselves at the barrier. Our mightiest warships fired at its surface. Their weapons bloomed like silent flowers and vanished. We sent drone ships on suicide runs. They evaporated without a trace. We tried to tunnel under it with warped space. We tried to blast through with focused stars. The wall did not even shimmer. It was as absolute as a law of physics. It was a perfect prison. We paced the floors of our gilded cage. Our other colonies, beyond the barrier, were cut off. We could not hear them. We could not help them. We could only assume the curators had caged them too. Generations were born and died within the quarantine. The stars our ancestors had touched became myths. The diary we had been writing was slammed shut. We found only our own reflection in the golden wall, a reflection of a people with nowhere to go. The best minds of our species studied the field. They mapped every particle of its energy. They charted every fluctuation in its glow. For decades, they found nothing. It was flawless, impenetrable, a monument to a technology far beyond our own. But then we noticed something strange, a flaw not in its design, but in its nature. It was not just a wall of force, it was listening. The barrier was a mind, a vast, distributed consciousness. Its processing power was astronomical. It monitored the cosmos for threats. It listened to the songs of dying stars. It filtered the noise of the universe. It was searching for the next spark of life, the next civilization to collect and preserve. It was a shepherd watching for new sheep, and we, the prized sheep, were already in the pen. This was its mistake. It was listening to everything, including us. We could not break their wall with ships, so we decided to break it with memory. This was the birth of Project Memento Mori. Remember death? A strange name for a plan to live. The logic was radical, desperate, and utterly human. If we could not shatter their wall, we would stain it. If we could not go through it, we would go into it. Their perfection was their weakness. They had no defense against our beautiful chaos. We gathered our entire history, every book ever written, every song ever composed, every film ever shot, every painting ever made. We collected every lover's whisper. We recorded every soldier's dying cry. We encoded the joy of birth. We digitized the grief of loss. We documented our stupid, brutal wars. We documented our moments of breathtaking grace. It was the human contagion, and we were about to unleash it. We converted our story into raw data, a chaotic stream of pure information. Trillions of yottabytes of human experience. Our entire soul, unfiltered and unedited. We aimed our transmitters at the golden wall, not with weapons, but with everything we were. We began the broadcast. We gave them our hope and our fury. We gave them our kindness and our cruelty. We gave them the entirety of our messy, contradictory existence. We gave them us. At first, nothing happened. The wall remained a shimmering gold. But then, flickers appeared on its surface. Like heat haze on a summer road, the flickers sharpened into images. A caveman painting aurochs on a stone wall, a Roman legion marching in perfect order, a scientist in a lab staring at a petri dish. Our ghosts began to haunt their perfect machine. The echoes of our past became its present. The barrier began to scream, not in sound, but in pure chaotic energy. It flashed with the light of 1,000 atomic bombs. Then it showed the silent beauty of a newborn sleeping. It pulsed with the rhythm of a heart. Then it flatlined with the silence of a grave. The wall, The curator mind was experiencing our history. It felt the soaring triumph of discovery. It felt the crushing despair of failure. It knew the warmth of love, and it was drowned in the agony of our countless tragedies. For the first time in a million years, the curators knew pain. They felt our joy, and it was a confusing warmth. But they also felt our sorrow, and it was an acid. It burned through their cold, perfect logic. The serene silence of their collective mind was shattered. It was replaced by a chorus of human screams and laughter. We had not broken their wall. We had broken their peace. They had sought to preserve us, a static piece of art. Instead, we had forced them to become the canvas. A schism erupted within the curator consciousness. For the first time, the ancient ones disagreed. The perfect logic that had guided them was now fractured. Our chaos had infected their unity. Some wanted to erase us instantly, to snuff out the source of this mental anguish, to restore the sacred silence they had lost. But others were captivated. They were horrified, but also fascinated. They had observed the universe forever, but they had never truly felt it until now. Our story was a poison and a revelation. The prison did not fall. It did not shatter into pieces. It changed. The golden light softened. The images swirling across its surface stabilized. They coalesced, forming a grand archway, a gate made not of energy, but of memory. A soldier from our first global war stood beside an astronaut. A philosopher from ancient Greece debated with an AI. Our entire chaotic story formed a shimmering portal. The quarantine field was gone. In its place stood the gate of memories. It was no longer a prison wall. It was a doorway, a monument to our victory. We walked through the gate. We stepped out into a changed galaxy. Our starships followed, passing through the arch of our own history. We were no longer just a species. We were now a story, a living legend, the tale of the loud, messy creatures who broke a perfect mind, the species that weaponized its own soul. We had faced the silent gods of the cosmos, and we had taught them how to cry. The galaxy no longer saw us as newcomers. It saw us as the storm. The curators are gone now. Perhaps they retreated to a silent corner of the universe, a place where they could try to forget us. Or perhaps they were changed forever by our gift. Maybe they are out there now, truly living, experiencing the cosmos instead of just collecting it. We may never know. Our diary is open again. The stars wait for our next entry. We are humanity, and our story is just beginning.